Well, I did it, fam. I saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. But before you actually give me my condolences, I'm going to talk about the movie. So, my movie reviews are apparently doing very well, and I guess that means I should be doing more of them here on the channel. Thank you for watching the Sound of Freedom review that I did, which was a wonderful, wonderful movie, and I suggest everybody go see. And so I went to see Indiana Jones, which is, I guess, his chief competitor. Believe that. I mean, we couldn't believe that this would be at this state. Now, Indiana Jones is vastly underperforming at the box office, just doing a very, very poor job. But what I saw at the theater was it was still busy on a Monday night. It was full. So I'm don't know what's happening with that movie, but we went and saw it for you. So I'm a professional writer, and I look at this from like a writing lens more than anything else, and whether I'm just entertained, and of course whether my kids are entertained by this movie. So I brought the kids; they enjoyed it. It was a lot of rip roaring action, and of course it opens up with actually a Indiana Jones back in the 40s, kind of escaping a plot from Nazi Germany, where he's dealing with relics and all that. Now, this is interesting because Hitler actually was very fascinated with relics and art and artifacts and things like that. He was an artist himself, and ended up uh, hoarding a lot of these things. This was actually true. Now, this guy here was like the chief Nazi villain back in the day, and this is him later on. And he was trying to get this Archimedes dial, which he says can, I guess, manipulate time and all that. And what Indiana Jones stole a piece of that dial and then disappeared with it, and then we fast forward 20 years later. Now, these scenes took a little bit too long for an intro. I do like the opening of in action, the prior mission, whatever. Mission Impossible tends to do that a lot with their movies, and I thought it was enjoyable on that level, but it was a little bit too long before we actually got to where the real movie starts. Now, Indiana Jones wakes up in the 60s. He's like on the day of his retirement, and all these people show up to try to steal the dial from him because this guy is back, and he is going to try to, I guess, change the war in Nazi Germany with this dial that's going to change time. Now, there's a couple things with this. Indiana Jones does have some supernatural stuff. If you look at the first three movies, they were a little muted. And I don't know if that's just because of effects or whatnot, but you saw stuff with the Ark of the Covenant, with like the spirits coming out of it and all that. But they were a little bit muted. And then, of course, with the Crystal Skull, you saw this big alien invasion sort of CGI scene, which kind of changed that. I feel like it changes the tone of things a little bit. I liked the muted stuff personally. And so when this one got to the point where it actually did have the supernatural parts to it, and there will be spoilers to this, by the way. I thought it was a little too much, and again, went along a little too long. And that seems to be like the little bit of the trend of this movie. Like they really drug this out a little bit too long. It was about 2.5 hours, and I'm kind of sick of movies trying to hit that mark. I think hitting the 2 hour mark and cutting 20, 30 minutes out of this would have been kind of nice for the movie overall. Now, there's a couple things in this. So they chase after the dial, and he's got a goddaughter who's the daughter of one of his buddy adventurers, who, of course, died before, and she's trying to get this dial because her father was obsessed with it, and she's trying to make a buck off of it, is what it comes down to at the end of the day. Now, she's adopted some little, like, Moroccan Spanish kid, very odd, and they're kind of a thief group together. Now, the Nazi guy is, of course, chasing after it, too. He's enlisted the help of the CIA, who he eventually betrays, and they show how bad he is by, of course, killing the shiny black CIA operative, who's, I guess, there for the diversity quotient of the movie. You have to do that in a Disney movie these days. And Indiana Jones goes after this dial as for one final adventure, which is kind of already been done in the Crystal Skull as his one final adventure, which he already did. Now, Harrison Ford actually, I mean, for being 80 and all that, I mean, gosh, like, he's actually, pretty spry, and he looks pretty good, and he actually acts pretty well. He doesn't feel like one of those aging actors who can barely read their lines. I was pretty impressed by what he did in this, and I was kind of captivated by him throughout the movie, just like always. Now, in the beginning sequence and in the flashback sequences, they did de-age him like this, and they, of course, have his voice a little slower and a little deeper and raspier than it would be if he was kind of this age. It was a little bit awkward on that front. But those flashbacks, they did work pretty well, and they invested you in the character pretty nicely also. Now, one thing that I didn't like about the movie is the fact that like he had a happy ending with this. He was getting together with Marion, and of course, he had a son, and everything was good in Indiana Jones. But in this one, they show that there's like divorce papers going on, and later on, you find out that his son was killed in basically Vietnam, and which fits with the '60s theme a little bit, and that just torpedoed their marriage basically. So it was kind of sad to watch, and that left a sour taste in the mouth by the movie. They do rectify it at the end. They bring Marion back because when Indiana Jones gets shot at the end of the movie, she takes care of him, and they get back together. And of course, they show a little hat hanging. It's a very nod to the old pulps like that, because you kind of know what's happening inside. So I appreciate that they got them back together, but I really didn't like that sour taste to it. I didn't think they needed to do that to the super aging character like this, who had the happy ending already. And I think that's what most people take exception to with the film. Now, overall, they have the run and jump chasing that Indiana Jones is famous for throughout the entire movie. It's pretty fast paced, even despite the 2 hours and 30 minutes, and so it's well done on that front. There was nothing dialogue wise that threw me out. I didn't see any lectures on politics or anything like that, which I'm expecting from most Disney movies these days. And so that was kind of nice. I just got to watch the movie and enjoy it. It's good for popcorn. This whole dial that turns back time is pretty ridiculous. But if you just have fun with it, it's not a big deal. Now, like I said, they do actually get in a plane at the end and go back in time, and they end up in Archimedes' time and meet him real quick. So you're in this Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure suddenly. And that part was a little weird and took a little bit too much time. And, having Roman ships throw spears at airplanes and actually connect was kind of I don't know about that. But so I think they could have left out a big chunk of that and had it work a little better. They did set it up. They had Archimedes wearing a wristwatch on his deals. They actually did plant some foreshadowing throughout this entire deal, which was kind of nice, at least that it paid off on that level. And honestly, it was done very competently. There was a lot of foreshadowing done in the writing. There was a lot of circular elements to the storytelling that were well done. And I think the people who are complaining about this movie are vastly overstating how, quote, bad it is. It was leaps and bounds better than the Crystal Skull movie. It didn't feel like it was a bastardization of Indiana Jones at all. Like I said, a lot of the feel actually was there. And I'm actually surprised, but, they actually toned down the strong female lead element of it. They had Indiana Jones rescue her at one point, and of course she had to go rescue Indiana Jones at some point, because the women have to do that these days in the movies. But overall, I've seen a lot worse in that regard. So maybe I just heard the bad reviews and heard everybody crapping on this movie so much that I was like, this was actually pretty fun. Maybe that's the marketing strategy here. I don't know. But I found it to be decently enjoyable. I'd call it a 7 out of 10, which is kind of my spot as an average movie. The effects look pretty good. I really enjoyed the chase scenes, especially through the parade. I thought the diving scenes with the eels was a nice callback to the snakes and all that. So everything was done pretty well throughout this movie, and it wasn't that bad. That's what it comes down to. Enjoyable stuff. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.